Could you introduce yourself and tell us how you got in the business?
My name's James Gibson. I wrestled formerly known as Jamie Noble. I've been wrestling for over 10 years now. I got into business out in West Virginia, starting out in Independence, wrestling, a couple of local independent wrestlers, Danny Ray Nelson and Joey Krieger, trained me. And then in '97 I moved to Florida, where I met Jeremy Lopez and Tony Mama Luke and Dean Malenko, and I continued training and progressing, from that point on.
What was it like trying to be a wrestler? Was it like a really difficult thing, or?
When I first started, they were just trying to teach me, mostly just to teach me the psychology, not psychology, but just, arm drags. It wasn't a punishing camp or nothing like that, a school when I was in West Virginia. And then the time I got up with Dean and his guys, we just mostly just trained on their techniques and just wrestling. The only real punishment as far as, like your squats and all that was when I was at the power plant for a while. It was pretty rough there.
What was it like training with Dean Malenko? That guy's like so respected.
It was awesome, a little bit. I mostly trained with his students and stuff. Dean took me and his other students in, and when we had a tryout match and stuff, and I was just hanging around. I never ever got to train much of Dean, but more his students. But every time I did get to be in the ring with Dean, it was awesome. I actually probably wrestled Dean more after I got in WWE than I did whenever we were breaking in, or when we wrestled in Florida.
What was your experience like in WCW?
It was good. All I did was wrestle, independents, a little in West Virginia, and then a lot in Florida. So when I got to WCW, I was just so excited to be there. It was a big time for me, so I had a good time.
Was there a point in WCW, like you were with, I forget the name of the group, what was the name of the group you were?
We were with the Young Dragons, is what we were called.
The Young Dragons, like, when you were in the Young Dragons, like, was there, like, a desire within you to, like, take off the mask and, like, be who you were, like?
No, not really. I mean, when I did get to take the mask off, it was okay, too. But I enjoyed, teaming with Kaz and Jimmy. We butted heads a few times, but overall the experience was good and awesome. We had real good chemistry together, with each other and especially wrestling each other. So I loved the Young Dragons and being with Jimmy and Kaz and taking on 3 counts stuff. It was awesome.
What was it like backstage in WCW? Like, some guys say there's a lot of politics or whatnot, but like, what was your experience there?
My experience when I was in WCW, I was, green to that part of the business. All I did was independence. I didn't really know how a locker room was supposed to be conducted or at that level, and politics really didn't have nothing to do with me because I was so low on the totem pole that none of the Steiner, DDP, or whatever type, for example, stuff that went on with the politics, I never had to worry about it because I never got at that level. I was a threat to nobody, and I was just, happy to be around.
You've wrestled in Japan, right?
Yes.
Like, what's like, in your opinion, like the difference between like the wrestling or the fans from here or to Japan?
The people in Japan, like, they're just more educated in the actual wrestling part as far as like the submission holds and things like that. And you know what I mean? It's just a different style. That's what they're used to and what they like. And over here is, we like the show and we like the promos and the pyro and the storylines. So it's just 2 different cultures, and that's just the way they both like to wrestling. It's just a little different.
Did you ever? Had a bug by my arm there. Did you ever have like a really difficult tour in Japan, like just on the bus for like a month straight or 2 weeks straight or something like that?
No, the longest tour I ever did in Japan was for 17 days, and the bus that they had us on was a real nice bus. I mean, they'd play American movies for me, and it was the nice seats. I mean, we really most we ever drove was like 4 or 5 hours. So the hardest thing about Japan wasn't the traveling; it was just the off days. And you'd be over and you'd have 2 or 3 days off of nothing to do. That was the only hard part I had about Japan. The traveling, the working was, cake. It was just all of a sudden you got 2 days and you don't know what you're going to do with all your time.
Back to WCW, like, what was it like working with Eric Bischoff?
Eric Bischoff's the guy who gave me my job twice in WCW. But as far as ever really working with him or having a long conversation with him, I didn't. I mean, every time we talked, it was really brief and to the point, or more or less just, hey, how you doing? He gave me, when we first had our dark match, we came to the curtain, Eric Bischoff, was there, and he's like, hey, welcome aboard. And then I went on to WCW in the power plant. Then I got released, and I was working with Young Dragons. But me and Jimmy didn't have contracts forever, maybe like 8 or 9 months. But we were doing all the shows and stuff. And when Eric, got back in charge again, he gave us contracts. So personally, I've never really talked to him enough to really have, he gave me a job. You can't say anything bad about somebody, took care of me twice.
How about Vince Russo? Were you like closer to him when he came in?
Mm-hmm. No, I spoke with Vince Russo. Hey, hi. I talked to Ed Fierro a lot whenever I was in WCW. He was always like a big supporter of us, and he always took time to listen. Not that Vince Russo wouldn't have, just I never approached him. It just never worked out that way.
On like a creative level, like certain people love Russo stuff. A lot of people like Heyman stuff. Like, who do you think is like the genius when it comes to creative in wrestling?
Heyman. He's way more than Russo. Russo capitalized on some stuff that was kind of cool at the time, but Paul Heyman can continuously. I think if they would give him, he's a creative genius when it comes to wrestling. I mean, there's no comparing. Russo, I don't think he's as good as Heyman. Nowhere near than creative. I mean, Russo might be able to come up with some TNA stuff, a real quick fix or a cheap pop, but as far as, getting them people emotionally involved and stuff, Heyman, he's good at what he does. He's smart.
When you're in the power plant, like, what would a typical day of training be like there?
It was rough, and I heard that it was way rougher before I got there, but if, for example, we'd stretch out and we'd just do like tons of squats and still do push-ups and go into neck bridges and tons of drills in the ring, and then we'd have wrestling, we'd have matches and lots of running. It was rough, it was hard.
I don't know the story of like what happened, like why you left WWE. Was it like a release, or did you request your release, or what exactly happened?
No, it was a business decision on the company's part. Things weren't working out, and they just decided to let me go. It was their decision. The door's open. They just let 20 guys go the other day. So that's just the nature of the beast.
When you heard about that, like 20 guys got released, what was going through your mind, like as a wrestler?
I was just thinking about what a shift that the wrestling world just took. All of a sudden, you got all these guys that are released, and I hate to see anybody lose their job, especially the guys that had families. But the truth is, the first instinct you start thinking about, which one of these guys are going to move into your market. So I don't know. It's just weird. They hired a lot of guys too, so. I don't know. I felt bad, I hate to see people lose their jobs.
Did WWE leave it on terms with you, like, where we want to bring you back, or how did that all pan out, and what are your hopes?
Oh yeah, we still keep in touch. You know what I mean? The door's still open for me. It's just going to be a matter of timing and everything. All the pieces of the puzzle falling into the right place. But I definitely see myself going back there one day. I think the opportunity's there. It's just I got to capitalize on it when it comes along.
What was the difference working backstage in WCW and the difference then being in WWE?
I think this is like the most overrated question there ever was. I mean, that's all everybody wants to talk about is the differences in the locker room. In WCW you had some of the higher up guys, that stayed to themselves and had their own locker rooms, and might have looked down at some of the, I guess, younger or mid-card talent. WWE locker room was more team orientated, I guess. We all changed together. Everybody, bullshitted with everybody. There was no separation. There was no, chain of command or whatever. But overall, I don't know what kind of stories you've heard, but from my experience, I think that's just a big overrated question that people they're hoping to get something. But from my experience, there was nothing there. In WCW, the only difference was, I'm sure, politics, played a bigger role, and the guys had more creative control or whatever, and they could buck the system. And we're in WWE, you got the boss, and the boss is the boss. So, I always have a hard time trying to answer that question because I don't really see it too big of a difference, other than WWE was more team orientated, and everybody just treated everybody the same. Everybody bullshitted and joked around, and everybody talked to everybody. Or WCW, their stars went in their locker rooms, and you really didn't see them or associate with them.
Have you ever had have you ever had Have you ever had a rib pulled on you, or have you ever pulled a rib on somebody else that you remember, like really funny?
No, I've never really had a rib. Bob and Billy, you know, if I'd screw up or wouldn't be in the right, you know, they'd give me a hard time, but in a friend kind of way, you know, they took really good care of me. But as far as actually having a rib put on me, no, not really. It's more of an old school thing, you know. Some of the older guys, you know, might do it to some of the new boys coming in. I've seen a few guys get their stuff, you know, ripped up and just stuff down the commode and things of that nature. But I never really did anything, and luckily I never had anything done to me.
Like you were there during, I believe you were there during the like the Tough Enough thing on SmackDown. Were you there?
Mm-hmm.
Like in your opinion, like I mean, like some guys work like 10 years before they get a break, and then like you know, then they have something like that. Like, does that like bother the wrestlers backstage? Like, just somebody getting given a big contract that doesn't deserve it?
Yeah, I think a lot of the wrestlers have a lot of animosity towards it. It's just like you said, they're busting their ass, you know, doing whatever it takes, and then somebody comes along and wins a contest. And yeah, I don't think they particularly like the Tough Enough winners too much, you know. But I don't want to say nothing because, you know, if it wasn't for Nydia and she was the first Tough Enough winner, you know, she played a huge part, you know, a successful part, you know, in my career, and I thought she was awesome. So I don't know. It's just you have to probably ask everybody to get their own opinion about that.
At what age did you start wanting to be a pro wrestler, and was that your dream as a young child?
Yeah, ever since I can remember, you know, watching wrestling with, you know, my papa or whatever, I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler. I mean, there's never nothing I wanted to be besides a wrestler, so I've been real lucky and real fortunate, you know. I've stuck with it, and things have really worked out for me.
What, like when you were a kid, like what was your fantasy or your dream match? Like, was there a certain wrestler you just really looked up to?
Yeah, well, I loved the Rock and Roll Express because that was the wrestling we got, you know, on Saturdays, you know, TBS, you know, the Rock and Roll Express, you know, taking on the Midnight Express and Four Horsemen and Dusty Rhodes. So, but the Rock and Roll Express, they were my favorite, man. I loved them guys. I was real big fans of them.
And like the internet, do you feel that's affected the business for the better or for the worse?
Worse. Yeah.
So?
Well, because now you got people, because you can't surprise the fans no more. I mean, I know that there's a huge majority of the people who don't come to the arenas that don't have a clue about looking on the internet, but I just think that it really hurt wrestling. You know, like we're supposed to be like, I don't know, it's just bullshit. Everybody gets on there and tries to figure out what's going to happen and try to analyze it, and you never know who's on the other end of the computer, like who's been a critic, probably somebody on their ass from the hole in the ground. Mostly, you know, people can have their opinions, and that's fine, you know, it's America, but I just don't like it when people get on there and try to let the storylines leak out and the angles and things of that nature. I just think it just hurts the business altogether. I mean, why would you want to know? Why don't you want to see it on TV and enjoy it and be into it? I mean, but some of these people are so into predicting or got the so-called scoop. I just think it's bullshit. I don't see what the benefit for anybody is. I mean, why not just enjoy it and watch it, and then you can analyze it, and that's your right. You know, you can say it's a shits or you loved it, but you shouldn't be on there like commenting before it even happens, I don't think.
Was there a certain writer on the internet that pissed you off or something? Like said something about you that you didn't like, or?
No, there's nobody that I could name. I mean, I've read a few things here and there, and I'll be like, you know, naturally, I'm like, who's this asshole, or whatever. But you know, I don't know none of the guys who write anything, you know, so I couldn't tell you because I don't. I mean, I read it sometimes. I get on the internet playing around, but I don't know who writes what. I don't pay that much attention to it to where I go into detail to see, you know, which asshole said this about me. So it don't matter to me.
And what about backyard wrestling? Like, do you really look down upon backyarders?
Yeah.
Why so?
I mean, what's the look up? How can you admire somebody that takes one of them fluorescent light gimmicks and smashes over their head? And that's why wrestling's so hard. That's why I can't make more money now, because you got everybody and their brother can get on high spots or go to whatever and buy wrestling gear and buy rings, and anybody and their brother can be a wrestler and they can run a show, and it kills the business out. You know, where guys like me and other guys that really know their craft, know how to wrestle, you know, there's no work because all the towns have been burned out because you got kids running shows that don't even know their ass from the hole in the ground, that ain't trained. You know, yeah, I hate them. You know, I think they hurt the business really bad, and there should be a way that we should be able to flush them out.
What like the travel schedule between the WWE and then wrestling on the Indies. Like, what's more convenient for you, or what makes you? I don't know the right word, but is the money still good on the Indies, where the less of a schedule is better for you?
I'm more happy now just because I'm getting to spend a lot of lost time with my family. Before where I was on the road so much. But I do good right now. Like, I'm not sweating if WWE's not calling because I'm making good money now, and I've saved some of my money. So as far as financially, I'm fine. And as far as traveling, it's a little harder now because WWE, they were real organized. Say, for example, you fly into California, you do LA, and you do San Diego. You can drive all the shots. Where I'm an independent freelancer, I might, like last night I was in double shot in New York, and then I had to fly all the way out here to California. So sometimes my bookings are got a lot of space in between them. And it's hard to try to get some sleep in between traveling. So usually from Thursday to Sunday, I'm wide open until I get home.
Like, what's your opinion of Vince McMahon?
It's once again, I know, it might not be what people want to hear, but personally, Vince McMahon, he always looked me in the eye when I talked to him. He always made time for me. Whenever my family was there, he always treated my wife and kid awesome. I would really feel bad if I said something bad about Vince, because on a personal one-on-one, he treated me like a man. He treated me good, and I would feel like a real douchebag if I said something negative about him. And as far as the other stuff and the wrestling stuff, he's Vince McMahon, and every deal can't be the greatest, and every time you go out you can't hit a home run. But obviously he knows what he's doing, because look at the success he's had. Look at all the WrestleManias and Steve Austin and all the stuff he did, recovering from the surgery as fast as he did, and he ripped his quads. Everything. I think he knows what he's doing. It's just easy to jump on that bandwagon of bashing WWE. They're not perfect, and I think there's a lot of changes that need to be made, but, I think Vince he'll figure it out. He's been around all these years. He knows what he's doing.
What's your favorite independent to work for?
Ring of Honor.
And why is that? Like, what makes them so special?
I really like the crowds there. I think there's a lot of great workers there, and a lot of matchups I've been looking forward to have. But the people are really into it, and it's just so much fun, and it's pretty laid back atmosphere. You just go up, and there's competition there. There's like everybody's looking to kind of outdo each other in a positive way. So it just gets me worked up. Gets me excited.
And the last question, what is your remaining goal in wrestling? What do you want to do? What would make you just have the perfect life?
I would like to stay on the course that I am right now. I would like to, I want to keep competing in Ring of Honor, but inevitably I want to, go back to WWE. I would like to, there's a few more things. I'd like to get the Cruiserweight belt back again. Right before I got released, I thought I was on the verge, getting to be the tag champs, of Chavo. I don't know. I don't really know. It's a hard question. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to see it do. I'd like to be in the Super J Cup and New Japan. I never had the opportunity to do that. There's guys at that level that I'd like to wrestle too. I've had the opportunity to wrestle Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero before, but I just wasn't ready to be in the ring with guys like that. As far as having the caliber match that I should have with them. So I want to wrestle them guys. I feel like I got a lot more to offer for professional wrestling. I still got a long career ahead of me, as long as I don't get hurt. And I'll be back in WWE one day, and if not, I'll be fine. I know I know what I'm doing. I can wrestle. I'll be fine.